Greetings, YouTube. In a previous video, I discussed Clark Kent in 1838 as a 16-year-old going out into the world trying to discover who he really is and get someone to help him decipher the information that is in a crystal which was bequeathed to him by his family or his people. It's a crystal that has information in it. He can't decipher it because he was raised on Earth. He doesn't speak Kryptonian. So now we're going to discuss Diana. Now, Diana is a member of the Amazon race, and she lives on an island that is populated purely by Amazons. Now, the Amazons in this particular version of the DC universe are culturally, or rather a racially diverse group of women. There are women representing every human racial background in this whole community. And the Queen and Diana are black. So explicitly, Diana is a black woman in this setting. And this island was created by Zeus himself some 3,000 years prior to what happens in the setting I'm proposing. And this is going to be her in 1840. So it's going to be a couple of years after Clark Kent, because their paths are going to cross in 1840. And the Amazons have been created by Zeus, well, for two reasons. One, because he wanted a group of warriors to help defend Olympus against the lower level monsters that really didn't, and hassles that really didn't need to involve Olympic gods. So he wanted somebody in there that would take care of the little stuff. And that's why he created the Amazons. In addition, he's an horny old man. He wanted a grace of entire women. Flat out, that's how Zeus functioned. And he often had dalliances with many, many women over the course of the Greek history. It's built into the Greek pantheon. Pretty much, he would stick it in soup if it was warm. That's just Zeus. And while they did their job, the Amazons were excellent. In fact, all of the Amazons, other than Diana, are essentially super soldiers. So they are all at the physical level of like Captain America. They are far superior to humans. But they got tired of being the grunts, particularly when they saw how the women in the Olympic pantheon, the goddesses, were second-class citizens. And they began to petition the goddesses to stand up for themselves, to act and behave as though they were equal to their masculine counterparts, the gods. And they really became rabble-rousers, and particularly going after Hera, who began to show them both sympathy and support. Zeus didn't like this. He didn't want women telling him what to do, particularly people that he had created himself and should be subordinate to him at every measure. At every moment, they should be nothing but saying, "Yes, sir," and if he says jump, asking how high. Zeus doesn't take insubordination well. So, he exiles all of the Amazons to the island of, was it Themyscira? I think that's the name of it, I can't remember. It's Greek. And he exiles them to this island. And Diana is actually a literal offspring of Zeus. So she is a true demigod. He has a parting dalliance with the queen, kind of like, maybe he's viewing it as a punishment. Maybe he just out and out rapes her. We're not sure. It's Zeus. He does things like that. So Diana is born on the island into this Amazon community. And for the next 3,000 years, this is where she lives. Now, Zeus and the other gods, notice gods, not the goddesses, often get bored. So out of boredom, they will frequently dump monsters onto the Amazons island just to sit back and watch them fight. Just for fun. Now, even though the Amazons are incredibly tough and have lots of time to train and become excellent warriors, some of them die. And every time an Amazon dies, Hera steps in and grants one of the Amazons a pregnancy. Often the partner of the slain person, or if it's not that, if that person had no partner, then just someone that was particularly brave in that battle. And the offspring is always a woman. So the children are not completely unknown. Because they are such great fighters, they don't die frequently, so children are not common on the island, but they do happen. So Diana would have been raised around some kids over the course of her life. So it wouldn't have been a complete unknown. Maybe no ice cream, but she still would have had some experience with babies and children. Now we jump forward to 1840. And Clark Kent shows up on the island because he can fly straight down because he sees this place and he notices it's rather anachronistic. It does not have any of the technologies that he's used to seeing in the world. Even for a world, 1838 is going to be far more advanced technologically, or 1840, than this island would be. So he visits them, gets to know them, and discovers that Diana is almost as tough as he is. Now, this is a non-flying Diana. She cannot fly. And she is slower and not as strong or not as tough as Superman or Clark Kent, but not by much. However, she does have certain advantages. Even though she doesn't have a ranged laser beam in her eyes, she knows how to use a plethora of weapons: bows, spears, javelins, swords, maces, axes, her shield, both a defensive and an offensive device, her lasso. She is very well trained, and she has been fighting for thousands of years. She has forgotten more about hand-to-hand combat than Clark Kent will ever know. She also has something Clark Kent doesn't have: protection from magic. Clark Kent has none. Diana does. And over the course of the couple of months while he's there, he tells her that out in the rest of the world, women are all second-class citizens. All of them, with the rare exception of like nobility, and even they are subordinate to masculine nobility. And people of her skin color are often slaves outside their own country, and even inside their own countries. In Africa, they could still be slaves. This incenses Diana. She is enraged when she hears this. No woman should be second place to a man, and no one should be a slave. Now, she is smarter than Clark Kent, better trained, and now has a mission. So she cuts him a deal. I will help you find the person that can decipher that crystal, because she has a plethora of languages to speak as well. She's very well versed in languages, while Clark Kent only speaks English and probably a few smatterings of a number of like some French words and Spanish words and maybe a couple of words from pidgin languages of the Native Americans bordering where he was raised. But for the most part, like most Americans, he's monolingual. So this is a deal he can't pass up. So he helps her get on a boat. He moves the boat off the island, and he can pull it very quickly while flying until they can get to a place where they can set up a base camp or something like that. Because she does have gear she wants to take with her, more gear than he probably really wants to carry with him if he picks her up and flies. So they leave the island together. Now, the 2 years between 1838 and 1840 is when he was out adventuring by himself. So a GM or a writer that wanted to use this setting could have that gap be the adventures of Clark Kent alone, searching the world and battling the Cthulhu mythos. Because remember, they're the big baddies in my setting. On the island, they were not present. The Olympic gods prevented that from happening. But off the island they are, and Diana has experience fighting magical monsters far more than Clark Kent ever has, or probably ever will. He will always be 3,000 years younger than Diana, no matter how long he actually lives. So she can help him in that regard as well. So that is essentially Diana's mission. Go into the world, free all the women from second-class citizenship, free all the slaves. That's a really tall order. Diana knows it's a really tall order, particularly when she not only has heard how big the world is and how many people are in it, but eventually she will experience it herself. And she is going to have lots of conflict right off the bat because, let's face it, she is not going to play the second fiddle to anybody, Clark Kent or anybody else. And the only person on the world that's even close to her power level is Clark Kent at the moment, except for some of the bigger, badder Cthulhu Mythos creatures. So together, they are going to make a really lethal pair, particularly when she gets around to training Clark Kent, so he may be a little better at what he actually knows how to do, because at the moment, she could probably still clean his clock, because he just doesn't know how to fight. If you're Clark Kent, why do you have to know how to fight? You've never had to have technique or strategy or no tactics. You just punch it or blast it with a laser beam until it stops moving. But she can help him become a far better warrior. Actually become a warrior as opposed to just a super being who is a thug with no skill and no style, no grace. So that's where we're going to leave it here. And the next video we'll be talking about Bruce Wayne, specifically Dr. Bruce Wayne. And then there will be a fourth video where I'll be discussing the setting after the three come together and what happens therein. Pardon me, cat, I did that keyboard. So, tell me what you think so far. Do you like what I did with Clark Kent? Do you like what I've done with Diana? And do you think it's interesting what I presented to the world with the setting I'm creating? And do you kind of see where I'm going with this? Tell me. I'm interested to hear it.